Welcome, students, to week 5. We're more than halfway done with this class already. Congratulations. So now this week, we're going to study Chapter 5, Word Formation, and Chapter 6, Morphology. So without further ado, I will now share my screen. Chapter 5 explores the diverse methods through which new words are introduced into a language. Chapter 5 identifies various processes such as etymology, the historical study of words, and coinage, the creation of entirely new terms. Chapter 5 also highlights how languages expand through borrowing words from other tongues, combining existing words through compounding, or merging parts of words in blending. Chapter 5 explains how words can be shortened through clipping or formed by removing affixes through back formation. Finally, Chapter 5 details how grammatical categories can shift through conversion and how initial letters form acronyms and how prefixes or suffixes contribute to derivation. Word formation is the process of creating new words in a language. Etymology. Etymology is the study of the origin of words and how their meanings have changed over time. Coinage. This refers to inventing entirely new words. For example, the word Googling was coined from the brand name Google. Borrowing. Many languages take words from other languages. For instance, English has borrowed words like ballet from French and sushi from Japanese. Compounding. This involves combining two or more existing words to create a new word. For example, doghouse is formed from the words dog and house. Blending. This process merges parts of two words to make a new one. An example is brunch, which blends breakfast and lunch. Clipping. This involves shortening a longer word. For instance, advertisement can be clipped to ad. Back formation. This process creates a new word by removing an affix, like a prefix or a suffix, from an existing word. For example, edit comes from editor. Conversion. This is changing the grammatical category of a word without altering its form or meaning, such as using the noun run as a verb to run. Acronyms. These are formed from the initial letters of a phrase and pronounced as a new word, like NASA for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Derivation. This involves adding prefixes at the beginning of the word or suffixes at the end of a word to a base word to create a new one, such as adding un to happy to form unhappy. These processes show how dynamic and creative language can be, allowing speakers to adapt and expand their vocabulary over time. Chapter 6 explains morphology, which is the study of word structure and formation. They clarify that morphemes are the smallest units of meaning, categorized as either freestanding, that is, they stand alone. So you could either have a free morpheme or a bound morpheme. Chapter 6 also differentiates between lexical morphemes, which carry concrete meaning, and functional morphemes, which serve grammatical roles. Furthermore, Chapter 6 distinguishes between derivational morphology, creating new words, and inflectional morphology, modifying words for grammatical function without altering their core meaning. Finally, various word formation processes like compounding, blending, and clipping are also introduced. Actually, it's not introduced, it's more like a continuation from Chapter 5, because we've already mentioned compounding, blending, and clipping in the previous chapter. So morphology is the study of the structure of words and how they are formed. Morphology looks at how smaller units of meaning, called morphemes combine to create words. Morphemes. These are the smallest units of meaning in a language, and there are two types of morphemes. Free morphemes can stand alone as words, like book, cat, or happy. Bound morphemes cannot stand alone and must be attached to other morphemes, like the prefixes un, as in unhappy, or the suffixes, as in cats. And so the S in cats is a suffix, whereas the un in happy is a prefix. Lexical and functional morphemes. Lexical morphemes carry concrete meaning, usually referring to objects, actions, or qualities, like dog or run. Functional morphemes have more of a grammatical role and help to structure sentences like and, but, or the S at the end of cats to indicate plural. Derivational morphemes are used to create new words. For instance, adding the suffix ness to happy creates the word happiness. Inflectional morphemes changes a word's form to express grammatical functions such as tense, number, without changing the word's overall meaning. For example, play changes to played to indicate past tense. Morphological description. This involves analyzing how morphemes combine and the rules they follow in a language. For example, English often uses S to indicate plural forms. Morphs and allomorphs. So morphs are the actual forms that morphemes take in speech or writing. Allomorphs are the different variations of a morpheme. For example, the plural morpheme in English can be pronounced s, s, or z, or iz, is, as in cats, dogs, and buses, is, so the is as in buses. Understanding morphology helps us see how words are built and how meaning is constructed in language. Now, before I go ahead, so you notice how it says s and z, and then it has this iz. That is known as the International Phonetic Alphabet. So if you go into a dictionary and you'll see the word, and then in parentheses, you see how it's pronounced. So that's known as the International Phonetic Alphabet. And that you would have to, if you really want to be a linguist, you have to learn the phonetic alphabet. That won't be covered in this class. The phonetics is usually taught separately as its own class. So when I took phonetics, it took a whole semester for me to master it. It's like learning another alphabet. Okay, in addition. So it's the I think of phonetics as the alphabet of sound for words. That's just my way of saying it. Anyway, so understanding morphology helps us see how words are built and how meaning is constructed in a language. Morphology is the study of the structure and formation of words. It looks at how morphemes, the smallest units of meaning, combine to create words. And now I'm going to be like repeating what I just said, except it's going to go into a little more detail. Okay, so that way, and that's the thing about learning something new. The more you repeat, the more you remember. So derivational morphology involves adding prefixes or suffix. Remember, prefix is what comes before the word, and suffix is what comes after the word. And so if I wanted to, I'm not sure I could do it on this. Yeah, okay. So if I wanted to say unhappy. Okay, let's just use that. Un would be the prefix. Happy is the root. And if I say happiness, and then ness is the suffix, and then the un in unhappy is the prefix. Okay, so that's called derivational morphology when you add prefixes and suffixes to words. And sometimes when you add prefixes which come before the root word, prefixes come before the root word, and suffixes come after the root word. And I remember learning this in second grade. So you should all remember this from elementary school. So, example, happy is the root word, okay? And then you add stuff before the root word or after the root word. And so English has a lot of Latin root words, Chinese root words. There's a lot of mainly Latin root words and Germanic, because English is mainly a Latin Germanic, but it's classified as a Germanic language, English. That's a whole nother class to learn the history of English and how it originates from the German language. Okay. So anyway, so here you have some examples of here the root word is happy. You add unhappy, and then the changes happy to mean not happy. And then teach. So the word teach is the root word, and then you can add a suffix like and then teacher, and then therefore er is the suffix, which indicates a person who teaches. Kind is the root word, and then you add the prefix ness, and it becomes a kindness, which turns the adjective he is a kind person into a noun. He shows a lot of kindness. Activate is the root word, and then you can add a suffix like activation, which changes the verb activate into the noun activation. So that's the derivational morphology. And each language has its own system. This is just simply English. You wait until you start learning Chinese or you learn French, and it's a whole other system, okay, to learn. This is why second language acquisition is so fascinating. Inflectional morphology involves modifying a word to express different grammatical features without creating a new word. This includes changes to indicate tense, number, aspect, mood, or case. So if I say that tense, for instance, I walked yesterday. So that's time, past tense. And so therefore, in order for the past tense, I add the suffix ed. Okay, so that becomes walked yesterday. I will walk. So walk, you have to always be able to locate the root word. Okay, and the root word is usually the base form of the infinitive of your verb: to go, to read, to activate, to act, to teach. Anything to plus the infinitive of the verb, that's the root word. And to that root word, you add either prefix or a suffix. Okay, so teach, to teach. So teach is the root word. And then if I say add er, teacher. Okay, so that sort of thing. And so walk becomes walks. The suffix s indicates that this is indicates it's a subject. She walks. They walk. Dogs. One dog. Two dogs. Okay, and therefore the suffix s indicates more than one dog. Better, comparative form of good. So the word changes to indicate a comparison. Okay, so if you're going to compare two things, you would say better than. And then if you're going to compare more than two things, you would say the best. Okay, so that's inflectional morphology, to modify a word to express different grammatical features without changing the meaning of the word. Okay, it's different than this one. Okay, derivational morphology, when you add a prefix to the root word happy, you change the meaning of the word from everybody's happy, and then unhappy, that sort of thing. That's how I teach it to kids. Okay, kids need you to move your body around, or they just go like that. But in inflectional, that's derivational morphology. So it does create a new word with a new meaning. But in inflectional morphology, you can change the word around, but you don't change the meaning. So I walked yesterday to the store. tomorrow I will walk to the store. And so the meaning of walk does not change by adding walks or walked, the suffix. So you're supposed to learn all of this. It's supposed to be all review of second grade. Okay, you should remember all of this from second grade. I know I do. So compounding involves combining two or more root words. Remember what a root word is. This is what I always do that with my elementary school. Remember what's a root word again? So I would always reinforce to my little kids what's a root word, and we would even have let's see, colored construction paper where you have two, and then you have the root word, and then you have the prefix is one color, suffix is another. Kids love that sort of stuff. Anyway, it's much more interesting. It makes it more interesting. So you could tell I was an elementary school teacher at one time. So compounding involves combining two or more root words to create a new word. Toothbrush is a combination of the root word tooth and the root word brush. Sunflower, a combination of sun and flower. Football, a combination of foot and ball. Blending, we did this already, didn't we? Yeah. So, but it's good to review. Involves merging parts of two words to create a new word. So the example I gave above was a blend of breakfast and lunch, brunch. A blend of smoke and fog, smog. A blend of motor and hotel, motel. Clipping involves shortening a longer word to create a new shorter term, a new shorter form. Mathematics, math. Advertisement, ad. Refrigerator, fridge. And people with long names also go through clipping. So if your name is really, really long, and then you would shorten it to something that everybody can pronounce. So that is also clipping. When you try to make it easier for people, instead of saying Samantha, you say Sam. Instead of saying Elizabeth, you say Liz. That is clipping. So understanding the different types of morphology enhances our grasp of how words are formed and how meanings can change, showcasing the richness of language structure. And that's it for week 5. Yeah, that's it for week 5. And therefore in week 6, this is a long one, haha. So in week 6, you're going to be studying chapter 9, semantics, which has to do with also nuances. So we're going to go over the nuances of meaning, okay? And that is so difficult for ESL students, is to know the nuances, to know the jokes, what makes it funny, because you have to know the context. You have to have background information. If you don't know the culture or the context or the background information, you'll be the only one in the theater not laughing at the joke, and you look quite strange when everyone looks at you with, oh, how come you're not laughing like everybody else? Why do you look so puzzled? You know, you look really weird, and everybody looks at you like, what are you, slow or something? So chapter 9, you're going to be doing semantics. Chapter 10, pragmatics. And then chapter 11, discourse analysis. Discourse analysis is what I did. That was the study of conversation and how different, well, we'll get into it next time, okay? About conversation, turn taking, and how conversations are different in different cultures. For instance, in American culture, Western culture, people talk over each other. I mean, people get really excited. You see it on TV, and when everybody starts to talk over each other, it's hard to understand what they're saying. And usually the host would say, okay, one at a time, I can't understand you. But usually it's the host's responsibility to slow them down. And then in Asian culture, when you talk over someone else, you're considered rude. And so therefore you would, usually one person will talk and then another person will talk. So you have cultural differences in discourse. So discourse analysis is analysis of how to conduct a conversation in different cultures. So we're going to go over semantics, pragmatics, and the nuances of everything in week 6. So hold on to your seat belts, because it's going to get interesting. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe to the Professor H writing channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. And there you go. Have a great week.